Branch, Clark, Costello, Stokes. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
It is the council custom to journalize the invocation. I ask for a motion to journalize the prayer. Motion by Councilwoman Middleton, second by Councilman Costello. All those in favor of journalize the prayer say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Before we get started, I want to welcome Sky. She's with us. That's Ms. Wimbich's daughter. Hadn't seen her in a while, and I asked about her. So glad to see her. So welcome back to City Hall. Tonight's Showcase Baltimore is Janet Felston of the Baltimore Green Map. This program promotes the discovery, use, and stewardship of Baltimore's green resource, and Janet is here to tell us about the great work the Baltimore Green Map is doing. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Baltimore Green Map came into existence about 7 years ago in the interest of mapping what's positive that's going on in Baltimore City, looking at the cumulative efforts to become a more sustainable and livable city. So in front of each council person, there is a green folder, and in that folder you will find examples of our work. We use a set of graphic icons that are used in 65 countries and over 800 projects all over the world. Baltimore's project is a leader among the Green Map projects worldwide. So we map nature, culture, and sustainable living resources. For each council person, I've shown you two of the elements that are mapped in your district on the interactive Baltimore Regional Green Map. Now, we also make print maps, and our most recent one was a map of Druid Hill Park. We would love to do all the big city parks in the same way. Not only did we make a map of the park looking at the history, the opportunities for exercise, the culture, and the opportunities to commune with nature, but we also, through a Kickstarter, funded a passport, which you will also find in your packet, to invite you to explore the park more carefully and get your stickers as you do the activities. It is, again, an interactive in the old style, where you take a pencil and you write. So again, I encourage you to go to our website, baltogreenmap.org, and examine what we've accomplished. Contribute, because the idea with this map making is that it is participatory, that everyone contributes what they would like to see showcased on the map. And I thank you for this opportunity to share it with you.
Thank you. We will now proceed with the adoption of the journal. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion to approve the journal? All those in favor of adopting the journal say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. The journal is adopted. Bills signed by the mayor can be found on page 2 of the agenda. Bills to be introduced.
City Council Bill 14-0454, Urban Renewal Inner Harbor Project 1 Amendment, Ordinance for the purpose of amending the Urban Renewal Plan for Inner Harbor Project 1 to delete a building requirement for a certain development area, to delete in its entirety a certain development plan for certain development area from the plan, and to amend certain exhibits to the plan to reflect the deletion of the development area, waiving certain content and procedural requirements, making the provisions of the ordinance severable, providing for the application of this ordinance in conjunction with certain other ordinances, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Urban Affairs and Agents Committee.
City Council Bill 14-0455, Minority and Women's Business Enterprises, Small Local Business Enterprise Procurement Preferences. Ordinance for the purpose of creating a small local business enterprise program to be administered by the Minority and Women's Business Opportunity Office, requiring the establishment of goal-setting committees for certain specified industry categories, defining certain terms, establishing the eligibility requirements for firms seeking to participate in the SLBE program, establishing graduation and suspension criteria for firms in the SLBE program, authorizing the city to employ various affirmative procurement initiatives to promote the award of city contracts to SLBEs, requiring annual reports on the SLBE program, requiring periodic hearings on and review the SLBE program, providing for the appeal of certain adverse determinations by the Minority and Women's Business Opportunity Office, setting certain penalties, corrections, conforming and clarifying related provisions, and generally relating to the city procurement requirements. Sponsors Holton, President Young, Kraft, Henry, Middleton, Branch, Welch, and Clark.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Holton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an initiative a long time coming, and I want to stand here and say that as part of the Mayor's Coalition on Supplier Diversity and Inclusion, thank you for the appointment to that coalition, that there are many business people, large and small and in between, who often have commented on opportunities for local businesses in Baltimore. This is our opportunity to put forth such an initiative in Baltimore City. It is race and gender neutral with the intent of supporting those businesses that decide and have headquartered here in Baltimore City and want the opportunity to participate in contracts that the city lets for its goods and services. I thank my colleagues for your co-sponsorship, and be clear, this is a bill that will not move swiftly. There will be a hearing, there will be work sessions to really understand the elements and the components of the bill and how to make sure we are doing what is in the best interest of all parties involved, that we can continue to move this city into a stronger and more stable economic city.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please note Councilman Kerner, co-sponsor, Councilwoman Spector, Councilman Mosby, Councilman Stokes as co-sponsor. This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 14-0456, rezoning 2001, 2011, 2013, 2105, 2107, and 2201 West Cold Spring Lane. Ordinance for the purpose of changing the zoning for the properties known as 2001, 2011, 2013, 2105, 2107, and 2201 West Cold Spring Lane, as outlined in red on the accompanying plat, from M11 zoning district to the B23 zoning district. Sponsor Middleton.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just an added piece that is really attached to the bill that was introduced a few council meetings ago on the land right there where the old Calvert Florist used to be, right there when the students from Poly cross over and go to the light rail right in that area, that whole piece of development right there. It's definitely been approved by all the communities within the surrounding areas, and this is just an added piece to the previous bill.
Thank you. This has been assigned to the Land Use and Transportation Committee. A resolution to be introduced.
City Council Resolution 14-0195R, Shop Small, Spend Big, on Small Business Saturday, November 29, 2014. Resolution for the purpose of celebrating the 5th Annual Small Business Saturday in Baltimore City, honoring all small businesses for the many contributions to the economy and the quality of life in this country, and encouraging Baltimore City residents to shop small, spend big at our city's main streets, downtown shops, and the many varied and exciting neighborhood retail establishments on Small Business Saturday. Sponsor President Young, Scott, Kraft, Costello, Henry, Holton, Middleton, Branch, Welch, Clark.
Please note the Councilwoman Spector, Councilman Kern, and Councilman Mosby as co-sponsors. As most of you know, we always do a resolution encouraging our citizens to shop in our main streets, our downtown, because we all know that our small businesses are the backbone of the city. Most of them are local. So we're asking people, when they go out to shop, please shop in our small businesses in the city of Baltimore. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules for immediate adoption.
Second by Councilwoman Holton. All those in favor of suspending rules for immediate adoption of this resolution say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Mr. President, move immediate adoption.
Second by Councilwoman Holton. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 14-0195R say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This resolution is adopted.
City Council Resolution 14-0196R, investigative hearings, status of charter-required agency audits. Resolution for the purpose of calling on representatives from the Finance Department, Law Department, and Department of Audits to appear before the council to provide a comprehensive update about the city's progress towards meeting the charter requirements that designated city agencies be audited once every 4 years, and to discuss the city's plan for meeting this charter obligation in a responsible and timely manner. Sponsor Costello, President Young, Branch, Scott, Kraft, Henry, Holton, Middleton, Welsh, Clark.
Please note, Councilwoman Spector, co-sponsor Councilman Mosby, Councilman Kern, and Councilman Stokes as co-sponsors. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. The charter, the city charter, specifically Article 7, subsection 4.5, requires audits of 13 major executive branch departments every 4 years. A lot of folks have been asking for an update on the status of those audits. Those audits do need to be completed by December of 2016. There's a lot of work to be done, and I think now is an opportune time for the council to exercise some reasonable oversight of that process. I've taken the liberty of meeting with the city auditor and the director of finance, along with the deputy mayor. There is a policy in place that the director of finance has drawn up, and that policy requires the director of finance to be responsible for getting these audits done. I think this hearing will also be a good opportunity to talk about what may be some weaknesses in that policy and how we can mitigate some potential conflicts of interest with those audits.
Thank you. This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Resolution 14-0197R, Request for State Action, On-Street Parking Flexibility. Resolution for the purpose of respectfully requesting that the General Assembly adopt and the Governor sign legislation amending State Transportation Article 21-10-4 to allow Baltimore to improve traffic safety by allowing parking on the left side of designated streets where requiring right side only parking undermines public safety. Sponsor Clark, Middleton, Kraft, Scott, Henry, Branch, Welch.
Please note, Councilwoman you want to speak to it. Councilman Kern is a co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Mr. President, members of the council, on several narrow two-way streets in our city, we have constituents who park the wrong way. Now, the wrong way is the right way under law, and apparently this law goes all the way up to the United Nations, but at least to the Congress of the United States. The right way is to have your right wheels against the curb. The right wheels as you're sitting in the car. If you're coming onto your street from a great distance and you park with your left side against the curb, that's illegal, and sometimes it's necessary, and people are getting tickets, and they're expensive tickets, and they're getting them in the wee small hours of the morning, because we now have our parking control agents working 24/7. A lot of people are getting tickets lately. There's been a flurry. Many of my colleagues and I have tried through the General Assembly to get the authority in the city to legislate standards in which certain streets would be allowed for this to happen. It's a long story. It has been suggested that the federal government controls this law, and we have already begun our search of those archives to find that law and take it also to the Congress of the United States. Yes, there are a lot more important issues to be working on in the city, but we are able to work on many things at the same time, and for several people in my district, these tickets, these fines, and the frustration of their lives living with tickets every morning when they wake up, those things are important to them. And that's part of my job. So I welcome your co-sponsorship. I've asked for it to have a hearing so that we could get this all out on the table and finally this time get it resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, that was not a bad idea. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. I have been down this road also the wrong way, the right way, wherever the tires and the steering wheel have to be directed. But I do hope that in order to truly get to the solution, it's the National Transportation Safety Board that dictates this kind of reg. And so if the executive secretary of the council would send this bill, this resolution, to our congressman, I think it would be much better addressed than trying again to do it to the state, because the state has told us on every attempt that we've made that they have no control, no jurisdiction. So I would appreciate it if we're going to try to resolve it, send it to those that do have the jurisdiction to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been assigned to the Land Use and Transportation Committee. You can find the consent calendar in Section A at the back of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? Motion by Councilman Kern, second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This calendar is approved. We'll now move the bills on second reader. Housing and Community Development Committee.
City Council Bill 14-0332, City Streets Closing Portion of 62nd Street. Ordinance for the purpose of condemning and closing a portion of 62nd Street extending from the eastern boundary line of Baltimore City westerly and southwesterly as shown on Plat 311A30A and the Office of the Department of General Services and providing for a special effective date.
Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Housing and Community Development Committee met in chambers last Monday, November 10th, and heard this bill. We reported out favorably. I move the bill now.
Second by Councilman Mosby. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 14-0441, non-owner occupied dwellings, rooming houses, and vacant structures, City Council access to registration statements. Ordinance for the purpose of making registration statements for non-owner occupied dwellings, rooming houses, and vacant structures available to certain City Council members, and generally relating to the registration of non-owner occupied dwellings, rooming houses, and vacant structures.
Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill was heard at the same committee hearing. I move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilwoman Clark. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Judiciary and Legislative Investigation Committee.
City Council Resolution 14-0161R, Baltimore City's current and future solar and other renewable energy plans. Ordinance for the purpose of reiterating the council's support for the city's stated policy promoting the use of solar and other renewable energy and inviting representatives from agencies best positioned to implement that policy to appear before it to discuss Baltimore's current and future solar and other renewable energy plans.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this bill was heard by the committee last Wednesday, November 12th. I would like to defer to the bill's sponsor at this time, the councilman from the 4th District.
Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you. As I shared with the audience at the hearing last week, this resolution came out of a conversation that we actually had at the Land Use and Transportation Committee over Transform Baltimore, the comprehensive rezoning, where we were dealing with some questions of where solar arrays were going to be allowed or not allowed, and I was concerned that the city did not have a comprehensive plan to address solar energy as we moved forward into the new zoning code. And so I made some suggestions in committee, and those suggestions caught the ears of all of the people who have been working really hard on the city's plans for how we're going to deal with not just solar but other renewable forms of energy. And I received several very explicit briefings shortly thereafter, and as a result, I asked that we come and have this conversation in front of the council so that more people could share that, and because the chair was kind enough to schedule, with the president's cooperation, a televised hearing, we were even able to share this information with viewers at home. So thank you for the co-sponsorship of this resolution, and I will turn it back over to the chair.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, as the hearing was held in this matter, I would move this resolution favorably.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This resolution is approved. Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 14-0405, Sale of Property, 700 North Utah Street. Ordinance for the purpose of authorizing the mayor and City Council of Baltimore to sell at either public or private sale all its interests in certain property known as 700 North Utah Street and no longer needed for public use, and providing for a special effective date.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee heard this bill about 3 weeks ago, brought to us by the administration. It's property that has been surplus. The committee recommends favorably.
Second from Councilman Costello. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 14-0422, Sale of Property, 5,000 Gwen Oak Avenue. Ordinance for the purpose of authorizing the mayor and City Council of Baltimore to sell at either public or private sale all its interests in a certain property known as 5,000 Gwen Oak Avenue and no longer needed for public use, and providing for a special effective date.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sale of property, 5,000 Gwen Oak Avenue. Again, property the administration has brought before us that has been surplus. The committee voted, and we recommend, if I might, move favorably.
Second by Councilwoman Holton. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 14-0423, Sale of Property, 720 Pennsylvania Avenue. Ordinance for the purpose of authorizing the mayor and City Council of Baltimore to sell, either public or private sale, all its interests in a certain property known as 720 Pennsylvania Avenue and no longer needed for public use. Special effective date.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, there is an amendment on the desk of colleagues. It is a technical amendment correcting an error on the original lot size that was written into the bill, typo. So first I move the amendment.
Second by Councilman Costello. All those in favor of approving the amendment say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. The amendments are adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Mr. President, we move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilman Costello. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 14-0429, Sale of Property, former bed of Will Street. Ordinance for the purpose of authorizing the mayor and City Council of Baltimore to sell at either public or private sale all its interests in a certain parcel of land known as the former bed of Will Street, extending from Philpott Street southerly 477 feet, more or less, to the end thereof, and no longer needed for public use, and providing for a special effective date.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee voted favorably on this bill last week. I move the bill favorably.
Second from Councilman Kraft. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader. Third reader to be held 2 meetings.
City Council Bill 14-0379, Plant Unit Development, Designation Remington Row, for the purpose of approving the application of Miller Square LLC, Miller Square Retail LLC, and 211 West 28th Street LLC, their affiliates and assigns, who are either developer, contract purchaser, potential owner, and/or owner of the area consisting of the properties listed on Exhibit 1 attached hereto and made part of this ordinance, together with the adjoining roads, highways, alleys, right-of-ways, and other similar property, to have the properties designated a business plant unit development, approving the development plan submitted by the applicant, and providing for a special effective date.
Third reader for final passage.
City Council Bill 14-0371, Electronic Smoking Devices. Ordinance for the purpose of extending the laws that prohibit smoking in certain places, prohibit the distribution of tobacco products to minors, and regulate the display, storage, and placement of tobacco products to apply to electronic smoking devices, defining certain terms, conforming certain language, and generally relating to the sale, distribution, and use of electronic smoking devices.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I've just distributed on the member's desk an amendment to this bill. This is an amendment that was originally in the amendment definitions. It got stricken when we amended those definitions and took out one proposed amendment, put in another proposed amendment. This clarifies that it has to do with the casino. I would move the amendment at this time.
Second by Councilwoman Spector. All those in favor of amending this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Please note that Councilwoman Clark is a nay. Councilwoman Holton is a nay. The motion carried. This bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend Rule 12.3B to advance the bill to final passage.
Second by Councilman Kern. All those in favor of suspending the appropriate rule to move this bill to third reader, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill will be voted on.
President Young, Kraft, Scott, Curran, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Welsh, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
Please note that Councilwoman Clark is a no and Councilwoman Holton is a no. This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 14-0372, Plastic Bag Surcharge, ordinance for the purpose of imposing a surcharge on certain bags provided by dealers to customers, defining certain terms, providing for the collection and remittance of that surcharge, requiring for certain reports, prohibiting certain conduct, imposing certain civil and criminal penalties, providing for a special effective date, and generally relating to a surcharge on plastic bags. President Young, Kraft.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, before casting my vote this evening, I'd like to address 3 issues regarding this important piece of legislation. Number 1 is how the City Council operates. Number 2 is why the bill is important. And number 3 is the threat of a mayoral veto. All of us here in this chambers know about how the City Council operates because we're here all the time. But those folks who watch on television and get their reports from TV or the print media don't know how we operate. And that is, we operate on a committee system. And that is, when a bill is introduced, it is referred to a committee. And that happened many times this evening. You heard the announcement of the piece of legislation, and then it was referred to a committee. And that is where our work is done. Witnesses come in, they testify, we get reports from city agencies, we ask questions, there is debate, there is discussion. Many times these hearings take hours, sometimes they take days, but we hear the bill, we hear them, we discuss them, that we debate them. Very, very seldom do you ever see or hear debate here on the council floor. So that when it is reported in the news that a bill passed or failed without debate on the council floor, while that is true, that there was no debate on the council floor, that does not mean that there was not thorough discussion, debate about that bill among the members of the council, and not just among the members of the council, but with people from city agencies, with people from the administration, with citizens, with interest groups, all of who come and participate in these hearings on a regular basis. So this is something that I think is important for folks to know, those who are watching here this evening, those who will read about this, and I think it's an obligation also on our friends from the media so that they do make this clear to folks that when they talk about our procedures, that they're saying while there was not a debate at the council meeting, the bills were heard and they were discussed. This particular bill, this is the 8th bill dealing with either a surcharge or a fee since 2007. We have heard testimony. In fact, we heard 2 bills within the last year on this. A bill introduced by Councilman Scott for a 25-cent fee, which was reduced to a 10-cent fee, which the mayor indicated that she would sign. We'll talk about that a little later. And this bill here, which started out as a 5-cent fee. Now, at those hearings, we had people testify in favor of the 25-cent fee, the 10-cent fee, the 5-cent fee, whether it should be applied to plastic bags, whether it should be applied to paper bags, whether it should be applied to plastic and paper bags, whether there should be an outright ban of plastic bags, how it affects this portion of the citizenry, how it affects that portion of the citizenry. We heard from commercial interest groups. We heard from environmental interest groups. We heard from individual citizens. We heard from the Baltimore Sun paper, of which I'll say something in a moment. We heard from lots of different people during these hearings. On this bill here, 140372, which we had a hearing on November 5th, we had that same type of testimony. For the fee, against the fee, fee on paper and plastic, fee just on plastic, just downright ban the bags. We elected to ban the bags. The process has gone forward like we go forward on a regular basis. Now, we've talked about these bags over and over and over again. I don't need to go back. There is no one in this room, in fact, I don't think there's anybody in the city that will get up and say plastic bags are a good thing. I don't think there's anybody that will see them. There are positive aspects of the plastic bags. A plastic bag will hold 1,000 times its weight. That's pretty impressive. That's like the strength of an ant. It will hold 1,000 times its weight. It will also last that long. It breaks down. It just breaks down into more plastic. And if you ask anyone, and especially our friends working in the National Aquarium, who have testified in favor of this bill over and over and over again, they will testify to the presence of these plastic bags in Baltimore Harbor, in the Chesapeake Bay, and how much of a problem they have been for us. In fact, in the last major study that was done by the Ocean Conservancy along the coast, 32% of the bags collected in the state of Maryland were collected out of the Baltimore Harbor. These are important things for us to know. The other thing is, the folks that are testifying against these bags, while there are folks in our neighborhoods who are testifying against the bags, the bulk of the testimony comes from the industry. And we have had the same industry coming again and again and again. The American Chemical Association, the Progressive Bag Alliance, funded by the American Chemical Association, funded by ExxonMobil, funded by Dow Chemical, to the tune of over $100 million a year, using the same lobbyists that Philip Morris uses. We know what the message is here. This is a fight that's going on. It's not just about plastic bags. The fear is, okay, if we act on these plastic bags that are clogging up our harbors, that are clogging up the recycling machines all around the country, then we're going to have to do something about the plastic containers that are floating in our harbor and causing problems here and all around the ocean. We're going to have to deal with all of those, one after another after another. You get the point. We understand the issue. So let me close up with the mayoral veto. I don't understand why the mayor would veto this bill. The mayor has indicated that she would sign a bill for a 10-cent tax on plastic bags, which would have left paper bags with no tax. So there would have been a tax on plastic bags, which would have forced people to paper. So if there's an argument saying, I don't want to ban plastic bags because people will use paper, if you would have put a 10-cent tax on bags, would have done the same thing as effectively force people to paper. So if the argument is don't ban them because that will force people to paper, putting a 10-cent tax on them would do the same thing. So that makes no sense. This wasn't even starting out as a 10-cent tax bill. It was a 5-cent fee bill, which was less than the 10-cent tax. So if you're going to pass it at 10 cents, then pass it at 5 cents. But it wasn't that. It was a ban. Now, the thing that makes it even more difficult to understand is I'm standing here with reports on Councilman Scott's bill and reports on my bill, 130241 and 140372. Agency reports from the mayor's agency supporting and or having no objections to this legislation. In fact, the reports from the finance department ask us, state in the most recent bill, we have no objection to the bill. It will raise approximately $1.5 million for us, and the only thing that we ask is it be amended for 6 months to allow us time to develop a collection system. So to come back and say we're amended, that I'm going to veto it after 5 days before November 5th, when we're having a hearing where we're getting reports from the agency and testimony from the finance department saying, pass the bill, just give us more time to work out a system to collect the money, and then 4 days later say I'm going to veto the bill, makes no sense. So I don't understand what that's about. But I'm sure one of my colleagues will explain it to me before the end of the evening. Mr. President, my vote is yes.
Chair recognizes Councilman Scott. We got to give town a sheet.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'll be very brief. Councilman from the 1st District, and colleagues, I think that we know the answer to this. We wouldn't have this problem if we just voted for my bill, and I'm going to sit back down now.
Pass. Councilman Kern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to explain my vote. First of all, I take the lead of the gentleman from the 1st District on green issues, always have. The ban on the styrofoam, the ban on the bags originally. I was not for this fee on the bill unless paper was exempt, and paper was exempt. So I will be voting for the bill tonight. Matter of fact, there's been only one group of constituents that were appealing to me to be against the ban is those that walk their dogs and have to relieve the community of the dogs passing ons. And those that have cats and have to do the litter box. So they were the only really constituents that said they were against the ban. They might have to find other ways to get plastic bags to correct their dogs' doings on the street. But I'm going to be voting for the bill. And as for the mayoral veto, this councilman had a veto done by 2 mayors ago concerning the election process back in '02. I did not object to that Mayor O'Malley vetoing the bill I had. And when the mayor takes her option, I am going to uphold her right as the executive of this city, because everything winds up on the mayor's desk anyway. No matter what we do, whether it's a resolution, ordinance winds up on the mayor's desk, and the mayor gets blamed for everything, even though we do it. But I'm going to vote for the bill tonight, but I will sustain the mayor's veto if the council so chooses to override that.
Okay, I didn't know we was on a roll call, but please note that Council President Young is a yes vote. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Spector. It was Henry before you. Chair recognizes Councilman Henry. I can't hear you. Okay. All right, Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to recap a little history, hopefully a little briefer than our colleague from the first. I introduced a legislation that would have created a fee on plastic bags and paper bags back in 2008. Those bills were in committee for over 2 years. There were endless, and when I say endless, I mean endless work sessions on those bills. It was often brought up, why don't we just ban them? Those bills did not move forward. Instead, we did a voluntary plastic bag reduction program at the request of the industry, which appeared to reduce no plastic bags. This term, a colleague from the 2nd introduced another round of fee bills. I voted for them, but the council did not move forward with them. As he says, if we'd moved forward then, we wouldn't be here now. My colleague from the 1st reintroduced the bills at a lower rate, and still people would complain about the size of the fee. Even at 5 cents a bag, people would complain about the size of the fee. So we're going to ban them instead. Nobody's going to have to pay a fee for plastic bags, as you're just not going to get them. You're going to bring a reusable bag, and let me tell you, I've had numerous conversations with my constituents, many of whom are stereotyped in the media as being too poor to be able to afford to buy reusable bags. And many of them have told me about how they remember before plastic bags, when they had cloth bags. And that's how you went and you did your shopping. You brought a bag to the store and you did your shopping that way. And I think we honestly are having a lot of fuss and complaining over something that's not going to turn out to be as big of a deal as people seem to think it is right now. So I am proud to once again vote in favor of legislation that the mayor, hopefully, and city council will enact to make Baltimore cleaner and greener. Thank you.
Chairman, oh, go ahead.
Councilman Henry, yes. Councilwoman Spector.
I'd like to explain my vote, and I'd like to explain that it has nothing to do with plastic bags or the fee or the hundreds of years since dinosaurs have been roaming the earth that bills have been introduced about a fee or a ban. It's about the process. On November 5th, the hearing was held, and there was discussion, and there was plenty of information shared, and all of those things, but there was a vote taken. And the vote said we vote for a 5-cent fee. That's the way I heard it Wednesday afternoon. On Friday, I understood, I guess that's November 7th, that it was going to be on the agenda on Monday the 12th. On Sunday, most of us read our emails, and there was a query: should there be a ban or should there be a fee? Let's poll it. So I thought, well, I guess it would be better to be, if we're going to poll it, let's poll it as a ban. That way we don't get in anybody's pocket. So on Monday at lunch, where we have lunch as an accessory to the role that we really come at 12 o'clock is to discuss the agenda. So I sat down ready to see that it was on second reader, and it was there just as it is today, not talking about a ban, but about a fee. And I said, is there an amendment? Because I was going by the emails that were shared the day before. 3 times I was told, come to the 4:30 press conference. Come to the 4:30 press conference. Come to the 4:30 press conference. I don't belong at a 5 o'clock meeting because I attend press conferences. I don't miss the agenda lunch meetings at 12 for 5 o'clock meetings. I expected, if it was anything, an amendment, and if it was, rather than switch and bait, a fee and a ban, it would be offered, it would be discussed, and it would go back to committee, which is the transparency that we owe the public and the media and each other. Not a press conference, and not a switch and bait. And I could not get anybody to support me, except the mayor said, this should go back to committee. If it comes out without going back to committee, I would consider vetoing it. That's where the veto came from, not from the many, many years of introducing bills about plastic bags. It came about because of the lack of transparency agreed upon in this council, and the fact that it was definitely amended at a press conference and immediately adopted not long after at 5-something that evening. I feel the same way. This process has definitely cheated the public of the opportunity to vet the issue. We're not allowed to switch and bait. We voted, I saw the vote and a consensus of a ban discussed in this council, and next thing I know, it's immediate adoption. It didn't get what the public deserves. I vote no.
Councilwoman Spector, name. Councilwoman Middleton.
Well, first of all, I want to say, and I guess you all know, I have been against this plastic bag bill since the existence. And some of the reasons were, the number one reason is that things like this always affects the African American struggling poor community. And as Councilman Kraft, as he gave history, and I think time and time again, that was one of my main things that I've always said, and there needed to be education. There needed to be, it was a list of things. And, he had mentioned that this started back in 2007. And this is 2014, and I noticed from the start of 2007, there has started to be an education piece. There are programs in schools. The Sustainability Office and Commission have programs and initiatives and things that have helped that education piece. I brought this since 2007, I noticed the change in these plastic bags. I mean, look, they're flimsy, they fall apart. How can, people carry, they double the bags. I mean, the change in the bag has changed over the years. And also, since 2007, organizations have started giving out different kinds of cloth bags in different textures, sturdy textures from different health organizations. They've started educating the community. October 26th was the mayor's citywide community cleanup. I think I have that date right. And I participated in a cleanup in Park Heights, right there at the intersection, and I'm sure all of you know Cold Spring and Park Heights. I also have an area in Belvedere. It's always one of the filthiest areas in the city, and a lot of it is because of these flimsy plastic bags that people throw all in the streets and they blow everywhere. And I was with a group of volunteers from 8 to 1 helping to clean those areas. And everywhere we went, it was piles and piles of plastic bag. And one of the workers said to me, she says, "Councilwoman, I think we should ban these plastic bags. I am sick of seeing these. We pick up these bags everywhere we go." And this is in a neighborhood a struggling neighborhood. They're tired of cleaning up and when they clean up, the cleanup is just for 1 or 2 weeks, and then we got to start over again. I've been to other cities that the cities are clean. We're doing something wrong in this city, and we got to start from somewhere. And I started focusing that now it's time for it at least to start this ban. When I got involved in recycling, I admit I didn't really recycle until I got that big yellow trash can. And now I'm recycling more. So it is a behavior that's taught. You have to learn. And we got to start somewhere. So if you're taking that fee off, you know, I think it's an important start. So my vote is a yes.
Councilwoman Middleton, yes. Councilman Mosby.
My vote is a yes.
Councilman Mosby, yes. Councilwoman Holton.
Thank you. Councilman Middleton gave a mouthful on why we need to be more conscious about how we protect our environment and begin the process of behavior change. So I'm glad that one of the amendments that went forward was the 6-month extension before it is enacted into law. And I would think 6 months is quite a lengthy amount of time to, you know, what's the saying, when you're throwing lemons, make lemonade? So if it's gonna go, why not look at how we can be creative and involve small retailers on maybe coming together collectively to buy more paper bags, on how we can, I think it'd be a wonderful campaign to have the leadership of the city go around with their reusable bags, shopping for groceries, other wares, to show that it works. I keep them in my car. Wait, you can go places. Let's think about how many of us shop at Sam's Club, BJ's, Costco, Aldi's, Save-A-Lot. They don't give any bags. But we manage to shop there and shop there quite a bit, and roll our cart to the car and put our items in there, or put them in bags, or take the bags with us. I just think that at some point, for 10 years, we've been talking about what are we going to do with plastic bags. And I'm glad to see that we're not putting another burden of a fee or tax on the citizens of Baltimore City, where the other 23 jurisdictions, and there are other 22, because I believe Montgomery County has a fee, do not have such a fee. So from that standpoint, I'm glad that I don't have to go to the store and make a choice whether I'm going to pay a nickel or get a paper bag. I take my bags anyway, and it's a wonderful way to educate our young people in better behavior to protect the environment, so we can do cleanups and not the majority of the cleanup be plastic bags. My vote is yes.
Councilwoman Holton, yes. Councilman Welsh. Councilman Welsh, pass. Councilman Reisinger, absent. Councilman Costello. Pass. Councilman Costello, pass. Councilman Stokes.
Yes.
Councilman Stokes, yes. Councilman Branch. Yes. Councilman Branch, yes. Councilwoman Clark.
I have learned so much tonight. And I want my grandchildren to learn that the leaves of trees are not blue, and that the waves in the inner harbor are not multicolors of green and yellow and pink, and that we can live, as my colleague has said, without plastic bags. It's going to be hard. We're going to have to act like we did when our grandmoms and moms took us shopping. We're going to have to take bags with us. And for a little while, we're going to have to use those expensive paper bags that everybody is so worried about. We won't pay for them at the grocery store, but the grocers are worried about them, and we don't want them to worry. So, yes, I agree. We should help to give out reusable bags. I mean, gee whiz, there's campaigns coming up, and there are health organizations, there are grocery stores could put their name on and say, thanks for shopping here. But seriously, there comes a moment in a lot of places, in a lot of issues in this city, when you just gotta not send it back to committee. You gotta do something that makes a positive difference. You gotta get rid of these plastic bags that live eternally, apparently. You've gotta do what we need to do for our police officers too, to make sure that we have the kind of cameras that will protect the people and the officers alike, There's just comes moments when you got to get it out of committee and into the city. So I vote yes.
Councilwoman Clark, yes. The totals, 10 yes, 1 nay, 3 pass, 1 absence. City Council Bill 14-0413, International Green Construction Code, ordinance for the purpose of adopting the International Green Construction Code as part of the Building, Fire, and related code articles of Baltimore City, subject to certain additions, deletions, amendments, and other modifications, providing for certain exceptions and alternatives, conforming, correcting, and clarifying relative language, providing for the effect, construction, and effective date of this ordinance, and generally relating to the building, fire, and relating codes to Baltimore City. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Curran, Henry, Spector, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Welsh, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 14-0424, Urban Renewal Market Center Amendment, ordinance for the purpose of amending the urban renewal plan for Market Center to reauthorize the acquisition of properties within the project area, to clarify and correct certain language, to amend Appendix B to add certain property, to revise an exhibit sheet to reflect a change in the plan, and to extend the life of the plan, waiving certain content and procedural requirements, making the provisions of this ordinance severable, providing for the application of this ordinance in the conjunction with certain other ordinances, and providing for a special effective date. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Curran, Henry, Spector, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Welsh, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 14-0443, Police Equipment, Audio Video Recording Devices, ordinance for the purpose of requiring all police officers employed by the Baltimore City Police Department to be personally equipped with digital audio and video recording devices, and allowing phased implementation of this requirement during the first year following the effective date of this ordinance. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Curran, Henry, Spector, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Welsh, Costello, Stokes, Branch, Clark.
Please note, Councilwoman Spector as a no. This bill is approved. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Spector.
You know, I've heard some things here tonight that have astounded me, that bills don't have to go back to committee, got to act on them. A legal opinion is just an opinion. We went through a lot of trouble here in the council to put a charter amendment on that the council should be funded to have its own attorney. If that, what are we spending all that money for if it's just an opinion? There was a legal opinion on this bill that it wasn't legally sufficient. It was backed up by the president's request of the Attorney General as to what he thought was the legal status of the bill, and the Attorney General said they did not weigh in on local, but they would uphold what the local city solicitor deemed legally sufficient. It still lacks legal sufficiency. Again, the mayor has said, we just can't pretend that we are godlike and make decisions, and we don't have to vet issues with the public, and we don't have to pay any attention to legal. And there's a reason why it was deemed not legally sufficient. I don't think this is what the Baltimore City citizens expect of us. I think they expect transparency, they expect us to act legally, and they expect us to act with a good conscience. In good conscience, I don't think illegal is a sick bird. I think it's illegal, and that's why I'm voting no.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark. But I'll take exception to that because it's an opinion by the city solicitor that the Attorney General said that normally it would take them 6 months to give a decision, but they would probably err on the side of the city solicitor. That's his opinion. Okay, we had experts in here who said it's interpretation, and that's all it is, interpretation. This law was back in the 1800s when the Baltimore City Police Department was under state rule. Okay? Now, we want to make it a state agency whenever we decide to make it a state agency, but yet we have passed police ordinance in this body ever since I've been here. I've always been open and transparent with everything that we do in this council. Now, we just had an amendment from BDC to allow smoking in the casinos. We didn't have no public input on that, but yet we passed it. So don't talk about transparency unless we're going to be transparent with everything that we do in this body. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Mr. President, members of the City Council, I think we've come to a sorry place, and I think that we need to, in reaching from one branch to another and with each other, to be real about things. The city of Baltimore and the mayor and the city council better, very much better, have the right to be the boss of the police commissioner. If we're not, we're in deep, deep trouble. We are, civilians are in charge of military in this society. That's the way we were formulated by the Constitution, by the state government, by the charter, and the like. Ladies and gentlemen, civilians always in America direct police. Now, opinions are a matter of opinion. We have passed many a bill in this chamber in my 26 years here that directed things of the Baltimore City Police Department. I have sat here and listened to this be called illegal, illegally sufficient, insufficient, and the like. And I cannot walk out of this chamber tonight with those being the last words. It's a matter of opinion. But the important thing is, we better run the police department. We better run the Army. We better run the Marines, the Navy, the National Guard, because if America doesn't stand for that, pardon me for waving the flag, then we deserve to be exactly where societies are that let the military rule. Now, my own story about opinions, you know it well. Back in the 1990s, 1994, I introduced living wage legislation, and there was a city council opinion that said it was legally insufficient. We did not in the city have the power to pass a minimum wage bill in the city. So, yes, we passed a bill, but it was for contractors of city government. First living wage bill in the country. Several years later, in this council, last term, I had an opinion for a bill. The bill didn't pass, but I have a beautiful opinion that was worth introducing the bill that said, yes, indeed, we have the power in Baltimore City to pass minimum wage legislation. Why do I go through that now? Because it's a matter of opinions, and opinions change with different decisions in the courts, with different interpretations. It is not carved in stone. And so, I say that so that we can stop. I cannot let the last word walking out of here tonight be illegally sufficient, transparency, and the like. This need goes back a year ago to statements by the mayor and the police commissioner and their plan and what we were going to do. All this council is doing is saying, do it now. And that is our job. And if we're not doing it, then shame on us while we watch what's going on. Do it now. We already lost so much time and
We're
so
not going to
many
debate this.
people.
It's over.
Thank you.
Thank you. It has already passed. I'm not taking no more debate on this. We're moving to committee announcements. Committee announcements. No committee announcements?
I have one.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark. We have, the bill have passed, and we're not going back and we're
Mr.
not
President,
doing it.
members of the council, the Education and Youth Committee of the City Council will meet on Thursday, the 20th of November at 4 p.m. to consider opportunity schools. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilman Branch.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Safety Committee will conclude its quarterly legislative oversight hearing for the year on the Baltimore City Police Department's plan to combat violence in the city of Baltimore. We will also receive an update from the Police Department on the effects of the curfew for minors in Baltimore City. This hearing will take place on Tuesday, December 2nd, 2014 at 3 p.m. in the Clarence D. Burns chambers. I also have on Tuesday, January 20th, 2015 at 4 p.m. in the Clarence D. Burns council chambers. The Public Safety Committee will hold a legislative oversight hearing on the anatomies of a street interview, a stop and frisk, and the use of tasers. Baltimore City Police Commissioner Batts and his command staff will be asked to join us and provide information on these subject matters. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Committee announcements. Committee announcements. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the Judiciary and Legislative Investigations Committee will have the investigative hearing. We'll be taking the first testimony on the cost of the speed and red light camera program failures on Monday, December 1st, 2014 at 9 a.m. here in the council chambers. The Land Use and Transportation Committee will hear Council Bill 140434 on December 3rd, 2014 at 1:30 p.m. This is zoning conditional use amending ordinance 06353. Thank you.
Committee announcement. Committee announcement. Committee announcements. Regular announcement. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Three things. The first is I got an email today from the chair of the Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee requesting the following be read for immediate release. The Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee is presently accepting resumes to fill one male gender balance position on the State Central Committee for the 46th Legislative District. To apply, one must be a current registered Democratic voter in the state of Maryland, a resident of the 46th Legislative District, and applicants must be 18 years of age. Resumes for consideration must be postmarked by Wednesday, December 3rd, 2014. All resumes must be sent to Bob Murray, 46th District Chair, Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee, P.O. Box 23762, Baltimore, Maryland 21203. Interviews will be held on Thursday, December 11th, 2014 at Captain James Landing, 2127 Boston Street. I believe my colleague, Mr. Kraft, is familiar with where that is. Second announcement is my colleagues, Councilman Mosby, Councilman Scott, State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby, Senator Ferguson, delegates Antonio Hayes, Corey McCrae, and Brooke Learman and myself will be hosting a holiday bowling party benefiting families of Baltimore City DSS at the Shake and Bake on Penn Ave tomorrow evening from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Donation is 2 children's gifts. And last thing was just to make clear for the record, on my vote on plastic bags, when I said pass, I guess I'm still new at this, I meant approve or vote yes. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Holton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since our next meeting of the City Council is not until December 4th, I would like to wish all those here in chambers and at home watching this broadcast a very happy and safe Thanksgiving holiday. And just remember, we have so much to give thanks for. And let us reflect on our blessings over our challenges and how we can be more civil to reflect what our society should be more of. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilman Curran. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman. It was Councilwoman Middleton first.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make an announcement. The 40th District Baltimore City State Central Committee is accepting resumes to fill 3 male positions as alternates to the gender balancing purposes as constituted in the bylaws. And you have to be 18 years of age, a current registered Democratic voter, and a registered voter of the 40th District to apply. So submit your resumes to Betty Clark. She's the district chair. If you need more information, the number is 410-367-8943, or you can call my office, 410-396-4832. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kern.
Mr. President, not to be outdone by the 46th of the 40th District, the Fighting 43rd District also has a vacancy where 1 male gender-balanced position needs to be filled, and that's because too many women are being elected to the Central Committee. We have to balance this. But the 43rd District, to apply for the 1 male gender-balanced position on the 43rd District, you must be current resident of the 43rd District and 18 years old. Resumes for consideration must be postmarked by Wednesday, December 3rd, 2014. All resumes must be sent to Beatrice Brown, the 43rd District Chair, the Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee, Post Office Box 23762, Baltimore, Maryland, 21203. That's Post Office Box 23762, Baltimore, Maryland, 21203. Interviews will be held on Wednesday, December 10th, 2014 at the 29th Street Community Center, 300 East 29th Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21218, beginning at 6 p.m. All applicants will be notified of the specific interview times. That's for the 43rd District. And I also want to acknowledge that we won't be meeting until Thanksgiving. To my fellow Dons, since we're down to only 4 of us, well, 3 of us, 1 is left, we're probably going to take it on the chin, this Turkey Bowl, for the annual Turkey Bowl tilt, Loyola Carrot Hall. But Thanksgiving is a lot more to us than just the Turkey Bowl tilt. It's time to remember family and well-wishing with family and to be with family, because as I tell my staff and I tell everybody in life, family comes first. City council comes second. Your office comes second. Your family comes first. And be thankful for your family because they'll be with you through thick and thin. So everyone have a nice Thanksgiving.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to make an apology. At the luncheon, I had stated that the primary mover of the amendment for the casino was BDC, and actually they were the supporter of the amendment. The primary mover of the amendment was the casino itself, but they were being supported by BDC. But I did want to clarify that was misinformation that I had, but I didn't want it to be misstated. I didn't want it to be misstated for any of us. So that was on me, and I do want to make that apology to the president, and I do want to make that apology to anyone else who may have misunderstood that, because I did not make that clear earlier, and I wanted to clarify it at this time for all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Councilman Welch.
President. The Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee is presently accepting resumes to fill 1 male gender balance position on the State Central Committee for Legislative District 44A. To apply, one must be a current registered Democratic voter in the state of Maryland, a resident of District 44A Legislative District, and the applicant must be 18 years of age. Resumes for consideration must be postmarked by Friday, November 14th, that's over, 2014. Well, I'm reading as a matter of record. I just got this on my phone. All resumes must be sent to Timothy Bridges, 44A District Chair, Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee, P.O. Box 23762, Baltimore, Maryland, 21203, 5762. And Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I would like to ask for a moment of silence for Dr. Martin Salia, who, 44 years of age, died fighting Ebola, and he leaves a wife and 2 children. Thank you.
First of all, you have an announcement? Okay. The next meeting of the City Council will be Thursday, December the 4th, and it will begin at 4:30 so that City Council members can attend the annual monument lighting. The 43rd annual monument lighting begins at 5 p.m. and will continue until the official lighting and fireworks display, which will take place at approximately 7:45 p.m. I would like to wish a happy birthday to Councilman Welch, whose birthday is this Thursday, and Councilman Costello, whose birthday is next Sunday. So, Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Mr. President, I ask for a moment of silence for Dr. Martin Salia, who died fighting AIDS. Mr. President, I'd also ask that all of us would keep the Vice President of the Council, Councilman Reisinger, in our thoughts and prayers. He continues to be ill, as all of us know.
James Bethea, the firefighter, make sure we include him.
James Bethea, our brother in the fire service, who passed away recently.
Thank you. There being no further business, this concludes the 77th meeting.